Coming to the Children's Theater Company in Minneapolis this fall, October 8th through November 10th. It's Drawing Lessons, a new adaptation of a graphic novel live on stage. We have the opportunity to follow our protagonist, Kate, as she goes through middle school, represented on the stage through graphic novels, a multimedia presentation on the stage at the Children's Theater Company here in Minneapolis. And today, we have the opportunity to talk to the playwright, Michi Barral, who took a task, a challenge to kind of take a graphic novel, bring it to the stage, and do it in a way that can make sense to middle schoolers, do it in a way that can make sense to late elementary school, kids looking forward to middle school, and in a way that the parents can connect to it as well. So a wonderful conversation on tap for us today with, again, the playwright for Drawing Lessons at the Children's Theater Company, Michi Barral.
So the play is the story of a 12-year-old Korean-American girl who becomes a comic artist, in effect. She has some help from her friends and also her family and a mentor who is a comic strip artist. And it explores a graphic interface that is very much drawn from the middle grade graphic novel. So if your listeners are familiar with the work of Raina Telgemeier or of Shannon Hale, these are amazing women comic artists who have built graphic novels that feature, middle grade protagonists kind of working their way through all of the challenges and opportunities in middle school mostly. So the play came to me in two parts. One is from my friend Jack Tambouri, who's directing the play. Jack and I had worked together on an adaptation. It was a rock musical adaptation of Peer Gynt. And we so loved working together that, we were trying to find our next project. And Jack said he's a huge fan of comic art. He said, I'd really love to explore live drawing on stage. How long can we get an audience invested in watching something being drawn as part of the narrative of a play? And so that was one of the first proposals that I was really trying to figure out, like, what's the container for that idea? And then the other thing, as I was thinking about drawing, just as a live principle on stage, is that my daughter was coming home every week with a middle grade graphic novel from the library. And also she kept asking me to buy these books so that she didn't have to return them, so that she could read them over and over and over again. And I am not a person who, up until now, really had been in any way exposed to or experienced with the graphic novel. It just wasn't like a format that I was reading in. And one of the things I really discovered was just how complicated it was, how cool it was, how you could spend an incredibly long time on each page thinking about the interface between the storytelling and the coloration and the sort of felt impact of the images themselves. And so I really, through her, was able to think, wow, this is an amazing medium. And what would it mean to explore this medium, to use this vocabulary on stage? How can we take some really basic principles, like in the beginning, like paneling or sequencing or, gutters? Like, how can you think about the ways in which a graphic novel uses space and time and translate that or transpose that onto the stage? And could you build something that was like being inside the pages of a graphic novel in some way? And also, I was really interested in having a character who was on the quieter side, because drama, everybody's like mostly so talky in drama. And a lot of kids, are not so chatty. And so I wanted to have a principal character with whom we would engage, at least in some significant way, with their thought processes, their kind of and emotions, and their creative process as a visual artist. So that's really where the play came from. And it's been amazing education for me in comic art, in the kinds of comic art that there are, in just the incredible skill and creativity and innovation that you see in comic artists. And also it's been really like meaningful for me to have a play that centers an adolescent girl coming into her identity as an artist and thinking about what it means to her to have a voice as an artist, both like aesthetically, right? To have a kind of line that matters to her, but also in terms of her own identity as a person, in terms of her heritage, in terms of her the things that she wants to say about her own life, in terms of telling her own story, right? Being able to center a character who we normally wouldn't see as a protagonist, and experiencing with her the ways in which she learns how to tell her own story.
That's amazing. You said about 10 things that I want to try to unpack. Now, I'm only going to do 3 of them. We'll keep it for time's sake here. But one of the ones that you were talking about is the opportunity to take the stylization, the characteristics of graphic novels and bring it to stage. Did that present itself as a difficulty to try and make that transition, or was it an opportunity for a new kind of creative arm to grow out of it that just was kind of this blank canvas that let you try something new in a there are not as many restrictions because this is how it's done kind of a way?
I mean, it's a little bit of a Pandora's box, right? Like you open it and all kinds of things pop out. So mostly I would say it's been a thrill, and it's been a special thrill to work with Blue Delaquanti, who's an illustrator, who is our illustrator for the show, who's also a teacher at MCAD and at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. And they have such a terrific way of talking about comic art in a way that like is fully digestible, and also of translating some image that you would communicate them through text to them through text, and just like throwing it on stage in a way that is immediately legible and fun. And so I would say it took a while to sort out what would work and how. And it actually took us until last week when we were fully staged to realize like, oh, actually we've established this vocabulary, and audiences are so savvy and they understand artwork and they understand paneling that by the time we're halfway through the show, like actually we don't have to present a full stage picture every time. Right? We can have a fragment and that would signify, oh, right, we're in the classroom. Or we can even just have a panel that lets us know that, you know, they're inside a particular kind of emotional space, you know, because a graphic novel will do that, is give you a panel that really gives you access to the characters' reactions or to their, where they are emotionally. So I would say that it's been creatively incredibly fulfilling because it allows you to use the whole palette, and a huge part of the work has also come to life through the design team. I mean, they've just been central because they've integrated not just the physical space, like so the actual set design, but then the space of the projections. All the projections are marked in the text, but how they appear, when and where exactly, kind of like when in terms of like their timing, how they get executed over time, has been a huge part of our projection designers' work. And then also, you know, Blue has been a really special collaborator in terms of really just bringing to life who Kate is as an artist and their development as an artist, which is a really hard thing. Blue has also been working with the actors to help them learn to draw and to find their own kind of moxie and their own lines. And I think we really have 2 actors who do the drawing in the show. 3, because the role of Kate is doubled. But it's been really exciting to see how they've developed as communicators, you know, and as artists, just even over 3-4 weeks, you know, working with Blue. They're not drawing from templates. They're really drawing from their, I mean, some, right, shape that they've been given and some skills that they've been given, but also just from their own kind of creative impulses.
Yeah. No, conceptually, I'm excited to see how that all comes together. You know, I have a 10-year-old boy who's into theater and into, he's carrying a sketchbook around. And your story about, I believe it was your daughter with the graphic novels and how getting into it, same sort of thing. Like I wasn't aware that graphic novels were even a thing, really, when I was their age. And now there's a full section at the library that's filled with graphic novels, which is amazing. But the decision specifically to have Kate be a middle school, aged protagonist here is interesting. It seems deliberate. That stage of life, there's so much going on. You're out of the innocence of elementary school. You're in not quite the high school yet, but there's a transition where some of your classmates are, going through puberty. Some are growing beards. Some are going through dating. There's a lot going on at school, let alone at home. What went into the focus on that age group and the dynamics of those relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was precisely what you're saying was the impulse was this is a time of transition and of transformation for kids. And it's also a time when they're trying to figure out who they want to be and what they might have to contribute to the larger community and what their place is in that larger community. So it's right, but we don't actually see that many representations on stage or even on screen of what it means to go through an important change like that and handle all the pressures of being asked to step up in terms of homework, right? Suddenly we ask kids to, really commit to being like students in a particular kind of way, which I think this is definitely part of the play too, is that I feel, school is not necessarily the most nurturing or supportive place for all kinds of learners. And if school is hard for you, then that's a really hard day, and if people can't see the ways in which you do communicate, or they can't see the strengths that you have because you're having a hard time in school, that's also a particular kind of, negotiation and a felt sense of, erasure that is really hard for a lot of kids. So I wanted to really delve into that, particularly for girls. Like we think, of girls as being good students, but what if you have someone at the center of play who's really like not a great student and is always doodling in class and, is paying attention, but in a very different kind of way. And I wanted to really underscore that the ways in which people who are doodling in class, that they're paying attention in really important ways that we have a lot to learn from.
Yeah.
That they're processing the world, that they're seeing it in a way that is both like, a part and a whole, and that they're creating, that they're world building, right? That they're creating a reality for themselves that is meaningful. And so I think a lot of that went into thinking about what it would mean to stage a middle, in effect, a kind of middle grade graphic novel on stage.
One last question for you, and then we'll let you get on with your day. Appreciate the time again. Flip from this stage to the audience, the subject matter, the creativity, the opportunity there. What goes into creating a production where the audience is going to be mixed ages? There's going to be different identity, things that are weighing on people, whether it be racial identity, gender identity, inclusion, all those things that go in, again, to this stage of life. But when you're writing something that is going to be digested by middle grade students, by middle grade students with their parents, that maybe spark conversations afterwards. Do you feel a different responsibility? Do you feel like there's something that you want to hone in on there? What's that process look like for you, understanding that that's going to be who's digesting this and consuming this art?
Well, I mean, all of us have been kids, right? And all of us have gone through middle school. So even if you're not a middle schooler, and also I think younger kids are trying to figure out what's it going to be like when I go to middle school, so that for all ages, their life stages, I think, are, and this is such a formative life stage, it's like people dream about being in school even when they're 65. Right. There's something about this time in your life that, has a lot to do with like who you are and how you shape the decisions that then, go on to kind of determine like your life. I mean, the other piece of that is that I set the play in the 1990s. So it's set in 1995. So if you grew up in that time, I think there's kind of the fun of that. It also allowed me to take the kids a little bit off the leash in the sense that I think today, as a parent, I do this all the time. I'm a total hoverer. Where are you? What's going on? I think I had a lot more freedom as a kid. And obviously there were downsides to that, but I think there's also something about the independence of a child protagonist that, really puts us in the space of, discovery and exploration. What does it mean to like learn about the world for the first time in different ways, or to know something that you didn't know before, or to be exposed to a form like that, the kid who comes into the theater and is like, I want to do this. I didn't know this existed. Like, this is what I want to do. So I think there's a way in which the play speaks to all of those sort of desires on the part of the audience, and to their experiences as well. I hope that it works on a couple levels. I hope I had to do a lot of translating for a younger audience for what it meant to live in the 90s when we had dial-up and not internet, like, high speed at any moment, at any time, to look something up or to know something. It was not that long ago, but it was a very different world.
Yeah.
And for kids today who are digital natives and whose social networks are very different because of social media and group texting and stuff like that, part of what I wanted to do was to point us back a little bit towards just you and the pencil and the paper, and what kind of creativity can come from that.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I appreciate the time. I appreciate your work. We greatly appreciate the Children's Theater Company here in Minneapolis. It's just a gem for our community, and you associating with that and working with them to get this. I think this is the first run of this. Is that correct?
This is the first run, and it's part of a Mellon grant where there will be more plays that have been commissioned under this grant that is designed to kind of put the stories of underrepresented communities on stage over the next few years. So I feel really blessed to be part of that program and part of the inaugural production. And I just have to say, everyone at Children's Theater Company, the staff, the production team, it's just been an incredible experience working with them. The professionalism was unbelievable, and the professionalism of our student, that we call them student, but they're professional actors, of our acting team, particularly the kids, is extraordinary. They go to school, they get up at 6:30, they go to school all day, and they come to us, rehearse from 4:30 to 9:30. I don't think they sleep very much at all. They're really amazing artists, and it's just been an absolute joy to be part of the process with them.
There it is, just another amazing conversation with the creative team, the playwright, the people behind the scenes over at the Children's Theater Company. If you are interested in seeing drawing lessons, it starts October 8th and runs through November 10th at the Children's Theater Company in Minneapolis. childrenstheater.org can get you there, get you those tickets, get you information. I know we're going to be there. We're going to check this out, these opportunities to share these experiences, these representations with our kids is an important thing that we value in our family, and it's an important thing for our community as well. So hopefully you find time. This one is perfect for upper elementary, middle, and high schoolers to experience with their family, with their parents. The audience guide, some notes about the show are available at childrenstheater.org. Again, drawing lessons presented and written by Michi Barral opens up at the Children's Theater this October and runs through November 10th.